La 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here as we honor the life of Jeanne Pantone. I'll say just a few words here to get us started, and the heart of our gathering will be hearing from one another the stories and memories and the telling of the life of Jeanne. In order for all of us to be able to be most fully present, I ask you to just turn off your cell phones and do all those things that you need to do to be fully present. So it was my blessing to know Jeanne just for the past couple of years as a member of B'nai Havara, the congregation where I serve as rabbi. By the way, my name is Rabbi Katie Mizrahi. And as I was beginning to talk to the family and gather stories and reflect on her life myself, one of the things that came to me was a tradition that we have in Jewish life that lifts up a proverb, Proverb 31, on a weekly basis, and I really think it speaks to Jeanne. This is a tradition in observant households that on Friday nights, as we're welcoming Shabbat and doing candle lighting and other blessings and rituals to welcome the day of rest, one of those rituals is to sing to the woman of the house, Eshet Chayil, a piece of this proverb, and some of the language is a little bit ancient, so it may or may not entirely fit, but in so many ways, as I was looking at this text, I thought that could be written about Jeanne. So I want to just share it with you. What a precious find is an Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. Her worth is far beyond rubies. Her husband puts his confidence in her and lacks no good thing. She's good to him, never bad, all the days of her life. She opens her hand to the needy and extends her hand to the poor. She is clothed in strength and splendor. She looks to the future cheerfully. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue is guided by kindness. She oversees the activities of her household and never eats the bread of idleness. Her children come forward and bless her. Her husband praises her and says, "Many women have done superbly, but you surpass them all." Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a God-fearing woman is much to be praised. Extol her for the fruit of her hand. Wherever people gather, her deeds speak her praise. So we're here to remember a person who was a role model to so many, who extended her hand to the poor, who was so involved in mending the world in so many ways that were small and large, that were personal and were organized in community. She was a person who invested in her relationships over time and maintained so much love in her life in so many ways. And that's why so many of us are here today. And so I'd like to begin our tribute to her by calling on some of you to speak about Jeanne. First, I'd like to call up her cousin Scott Clements, who will be reading words written by Jeanne's sister Robin.
Robin gave me the honor of reading words to her sister Jeanne, her big sister Jeanne. Growing up with my sister Jeanne, Jeanne was 3 years old when I came on the scene and shattered her idyllic existence as an only child. She was my guiding light and taught me the important stuff in life, what was cool and in style, the best music, and how to act appropriately. Her good examples were always something to strive for. She was a better student and a hard act to follow academically. Jeanne was always there for me. She was sensitive and compassionate. It's not surprising that she had a strong interest in psychology and human behavior. When we were mischievous kids, our father would say, "Behave, you two." Jeanne's reply was, "Dad, everything we do is behavior." She was skilled as an active listener and would acknowledge everything people said to her with caring and encouraging responses. Jeanne will live on in my memory. I'll never forget how she was such a positive influence for me and everyone who knew her. We were especially grateful for Owen's compassionate care throughout this difficult journey and the overwhelming support of friends and community members. Love, Robin.
I'd like now to call up cousin Joel Friedman.
So hi, I'm Joel Friedman, and I'm from Jean's mother's side of the family, the Sussmans. So I'm here to kind of lay the groundwork for that side of the family. Um, Jean's mom, Rhoda, was my mom's older sister, and they had an older brother, Les, and a younger sister, Joanne. They all grew up in Tacoma together. Um, while Les and my mom raised their families in Tacoma, so I grew up in Tacoma. The other two sisters went further afield, to the Bay Area, and to Richland, where of course Jeanne and Robin and her brother Mitch grew up. The sisters kept in very close touch. They wrote a lot of letters to each other and shared a lot of pictures. This was all before social media. And if you don't believe that they did that, my sister has a box full of these these letters and pictures. And we also took a lot of family trips to see each other when we were kids growing up. And because the cousins were spread out in age, so that there was a steady stream of bar and bat mitzvahs and weddings and other celebrations, we would gather a lot. And these family gatherings were really fun. And I think all of us have a lot of fond memories. We were known to play some pranks at these gatherings. It's fair to say that Robin was often the instigator of these things. Well, it's sort of a family tradition. I think it starts with Grandma Minnie, and worked its way down through. But Jeanne certainly enjoyed all of these things, and she was always fun and good spirited and appreciated a good hijinks. She was 9 years older than I am, and as my older cousin, I looked up to her. She always seemed so together. And the older I got, though, the more I really appreciated her many qualities. As presumably many of you know, she was very calm, sort of a no drama person. A lot actually like her dad, my Uncle Milt. She had a positive attitude and was so genuine. In particular, she was always very thoughtful of other people, and you could feel that she cared about you when she spoke with you, which in turn I think made people care about her. One story that stands out for me was when the Lewises invited me and my sister to join their whole family on a trip to Hawaii. I was in college and my sister was in high school. And it was a hard time for us because our folks had actually recently passed away. All our aunts and uncles uh, um, gave me and Lori a lot of support during this time. But this trip was really a wonderful gesture and amazing opportunity. But to suffice it to say, I nearly made a mess of things. You can blame it on youthful indiscretion. But luckily, Jeanne really handled the situation and kept a lid on things. Rather than getting mad at me, she stayed pretty calm. And interesting, the first thing she did, she wanted to make sure that I was okay. After all, I had recently lost my parents. And so we talked for a bit. And then when she was convinced that I was really just being stupid, she gave me some good advice and basically saved the trip for me, at least. Jeanne's deep love and kindness is so evident in so many ways and is reflected, I think, also in Owen and Rachel as well. She and Owen hosted everyone here in Denver at Red Rocks for Rachel's bat mitzvah. It's a wonderful, happy time, and truly amazing. Even as Jeanne was struggling with her health and trying to avoid COVID, they still came to family events. There was 2 weddings and a bar mitzvah over the last couple of years that we got to see them at. So I'm sure that there will be more bar mitzvahs and weddings in the future, and we look forward to seeing you at them all, Owen and Rachel. We love you and want to hold you close.
I'd like now to call up Maggie Miller, who's a close friend of the family and part of our community.
My name is Maggie Miller. My husband Doug and I are in Havurah Ruach, which is Jeanne, Owen, and Rachel's Havurah. There are 12 others in Havurah Ruach, and I think that most, if not all of us, are here this morning. I hope that as I give this eulogy, they feel that I am speaking for the other members as well. More than 30 years ago, in a smallish room at the facility of CJRF, Colorado Jewish Reconstructionist Federation, now known as B'nai Havurah, 5 young couples sat in a circle around a middle-aged woman named Ruth Chapman. As Ruthie concluded her second night of the required orientation to this unusual, "Don't call us a congregation," she said, "Now it's time to think about joining a Havurah, or you, as a group, can create one yourselves." Jeanne Pantone, Owen Cheriton, Maggie, Doug, Miriam, David, and the others looked around at each other, these people who'd we'd met a week ago and with whom we'd spent about 4 hours, and we said, "Okay, let's try it." It was the early 1990s. Flash forward to 2024. Make a montage in your head like you'd see in a movie. Jeanne and Owen get married. Maggie and Doug get married. The Havurah brings in new members. There is some attrition, some moving out of state and out of the country. There are more marriages, a few divorces. There are babies, so many babies. There are 2 deaths. Babies become young children, and seders become delightfully chaotic. Young children grow up. People change, their families change, their Jewish life changes. Havurah Ruach has a come to Jesus meeting. You know what I mean. And with a skilled facilitator, develops a mission statement. It includes language like, "We are a long-standing extended family. And as we age, we do so supportively and together. And we are willing to ask for and offer help to members as needed. Jeanne has been a pillar in our longstanding extended family. Again, please picture this in movie form. The calendar pages peel away into the air as months and years pass. You see our group holding our wine and grape juice high around one Seder table after another, lighting menorahs on various mantels and pianos and coffee tables in our homes all over the Denver metro area over the years. As you watch, you see our hair growing gray, our adult children disappearing and appearing again, and always, always our singing and our laughter and our hugs. We have one special tradition which was spearheaded by Jeanne, a Ruach retreat. These have been held in lovely Estes Park at VRBOs and Airbnbs, which could affordably and comfortably hold 30 people. This was possible only because Jeanne carefully selected options and negotiated with owners, building such rapport with them that I wouldn't be surprised if they were here today at her funeral. And even more impressive was how conscientiously she sought input and consensus from the rest of us before arriving at a thoughtful decision about location. As deadlines loomed, the cancellation policies hung over our COVID-addled heads, and deposits were due. This was truly one demonstration of Jeanne's patience, collaborative spirit, humor, and ability to focus on the prize for the sake of the greater good. Speaking of Jeanne's qualities, listen to these words and phrases that came from Ruach members in the last few days. People spoke about her nature. Jeanne was a gentle spirit. She did not have a bad thing to say about anybody. Her voice was low and melodious, warm, kind, encouraging, calming. She had a knack for noticing and remembering what you and she had in common, whether it be bird watching or fiction or the kind of music you both liked. So you always had something to talk about with her. She was quiet. Jeanne was comfortable in the silence. So positive, non-judgmental. She was always giving back. People spoke about what a good listener Jeanne was. I always felt that when Jeanne asked me a question, she really wanted to understand the answer. She was truly interested and wanted to hear my response. Jeanne was always there as the therapist that she was. I'm not the most comfortable person in social situations, but I always knew I could talk to her. She always asked how I was, even when she was so sick. And people spoke about how she managed her illness. I admired her remarkable strength and resilience as she fought thyroid cancer and ovarian cancer. She handled daunting challenges with grace and honesty. With her disease, while there was a sense of urgency, there was never a sense of panic. She enrolled in those trials with a genuine desire to contribute to science, and she read all those scientific journal articles about those different treatments. Her optimistic approach to managing her years of illness was remarkable. I never caught a whiff, even a whiff of self-pity. So these are the memories and experiences of Jeanne that I share with you today on behalf of Havurah Ruach. This doesn't even begin to touch her involvement with B'nai Havurah at large. You will have to hear more from her friends from the Library Committee, the Tikkun Olam Committee, Mahjong, etc., not to mention friends beyond B'nai and her support groups and book clubs. I will close with a poem. I sent this to Jeanne and Owen a couple of weeks before her death. And Owen told me that he had read it to Jeanne. When he asked me to do this eulogy, I asked if I should include it, and he said yes. So, poem for Jeanne Pantone. Dylan Thomas begged his father, do not go gentle into that good night. Dear Jeanne, my friend, steadfast as the reliable rising sun, lifting and uplifting like a lark at dawn, gentle like a blanket smoothed across the sand on a summer's afternoon, soothing as the evening surf whispering into shore. Thank you. And funny, too. Well read and winner of the Best Listener Ever award. Thank you. Mother, sister, wife, and friend, swapping stories of childbirth in the aftermath. Thank you. And so, dear Jeanne, when the evening stars appear and that good night invites, I blow a bedtime kiss across time and space to your dear cheek. I whisper wishes for a gentle rest.
Thank you, Maggie. And now I'd like to call up Owen, Jean's beloved husband.
So I met Jeanne in 1990, 34 years ago. So we had 34 years together. And I don't believe there's any such thing as a perfect marriage. And so I can't say ours was perfect, but it was pretty damn good. I could say that, you know. We had our moments, good and bad, mostly good. So you might have heard she grew up in Richland, Washington, a small town, fairly small town, about 4 hours from Seattle. And it was, you know, a very nice childhood. They lived right by the Columbia River, water skiing, and a nice block with a lot of families and kids her age who all did things together. I don't think there was that much happening in town. She talked about the time that the first building with an elevator came to town, and that was like they would go down to the new federal building and ride the elevator. So that was a good form of entertainment for them. But you know, as Robin said, well, as Scott said in Robin's words, there were these early indications that she would be a psychologist, and she knew. Like at least in high school, if not earlier, that was what she wanted. You know, she was went to college, one-track mind, psychology. You know, as soon as she finished college, grad school, psychology. Got her doctorate, started practiced for 40 years or so. She wanted to understand what made people tick, and she wanted to help people understand themselves as to what made them tick, and she wanted to help people lead better lives. That's what it was about for her. In Judaism, there's this concept tikkun olam, so healing the world, right? Is that the literal translation? Repairing the world or healing the world, doing something to make the world a better place. And that's what she was all about, making the world a better place. She sure as hell made my world a better place. I know that. But for everybody, in her professional career, that's what she did. When Rachel was real young and was starting school for that time, Jeanne was working a 4-day, 36-hour work week. And on the 5th day, she volunteered at Rachel's school. And over the years, she volunteered in a lot of places. She worked on several political campaigns, and she volunteered for NPR when they did their pledge drive sometimes, and a bunch of things. Of course, eventually she got to retirement, and as soon as she retired, the first thing she did was volunteer for a program called Reading Partners. Some people know it. It's a program that helps little grade school kids who are behind in their reading level. and they work with adult tutors one-on-one. So she immediately went to work doing that, working with I think second graders or close to that. Anyway, and while she was volunteering, helping these little grade schoolers, she also volunteered for a group, a nonprofit called Benefits in Action. And what they did is they helped senior citizens connect with benefits that they were eligible for. And so 40 years of helping people as a therapist. And then she retired and helped little kids and senior citizens, you know. But she didn't neglect herself either. She was trying to help herself all the time. She was taking classes, like she audited classes at Metro State. She said, there's a bunch of classes I never took in college. She was so focused on psychology. So she took classes in geology and astronomy and other sciences that she didn't take as a college student. And she also, a lot of people know OLLI, Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. She ended up taking a whole bunch of classes there, classes about travel and classes about current events and what else? I don't even remember. Literature and all sorts of things. I think she took a class in comparative religion or world religion there. Anyway, so, and I may be repeating what Joel or Maggie have already said, but she had a really wide circle of friends, all different sort of aspects of her life. Certainly her friends in the Havara and many others in the B'nai community, not just the Havara. She had a group of friends she played Mahjong with for, I want to say 25 years, maybe 30 years, close to that got together regularly. She was in a book club that met regularly, I think 18, 20 years, something like that. She was with them. She worked the last 18 years of her life. She worked at Kaiser Permanente at one of their behavioral health clinics. And she maintained those friendships. There's a group, I think, of 6 of them who still get together regularly. People who she'd get together with and celebrate their birthdays with every year on a regular basis. She just, high school friends, her friend Karen, who couldn't make it, she's from out of town, but they've known each other since 2nd grade and they're still good friends. And Rachel and her are still good friends. So she just knew, she remembered people's birthdays. Even if she was sick the last month or two, she would say to me, like, it's so-and-so's birthday. Can you go out and get a card so I can send it to her? You know, if anybody had a family member who was sick, you know, she always remembered that. She would always ask about that. If somebody had been on vacation or been out of town to a family event or a wedding, whatever, she'd always say, how was your trip? Tell me about it, you know? She remembered the details. She knew how to stay connected. It wasn't just a coincidence. She worked at it, you know? I don't know, maybe work's not the right word. It was just part of her nature. And then 7 years ago, she's diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and she could not learn enough about this disease. She was a sponge learning, and I don't mean just like WebMD for 5 minutes. No, she read the scholarly articles that the doctors wrote for other doctors, you know, and she worked really hard to understand that. She attended all sorts of online webinars. We would meet with doctors and she would ask questions that the doctors are like, really? You knew enough to ask that? That's very impressive. You know, I felt like a slacker sometimes because she understood, or at least tried to understand, the different chemo drugs and stuff on like a cellular level, even a molecular level. She was trying to understand this, and I didn't. So, you know, but yeah, she really worked to understand it. We went for a second opinion at UC Health. We went for a third opinion at MD Anderson, you know, she volunteered for a couple of clinical trials, and even if they didn't work, which they didn't, but she felt her attitude was, I'm advancing the science. I am helping other people in the future who may be, you know, suffering from this illness. So she joined an organization called COCA, Colorado Ovarian Cancer Alliance. I can't say enough about this organization. I mean, I wasn't even in it. Jeanne was, but they do so many things. I mean, one thing they did was a monthly support group. It used to be in person, and then after COVID, it was online, and it's still online, which is good because sometimes women are staying home, women with this disease. But that's just like one little piece of the puzzle. They did so many things. They did fundraising. They did education for women who were newly diagnosed. They provided financial support for women who needed it, who were going through this. She made a lot of friends through this organization, who some are here even. So, yeah, they every year they sponsor Jody's Race to raise awareness for ovarian cancer. It's right here in City Park, just a couple blocks away. And the first year Jeanne had this, we couldn't go because she was just recovering from surgery. And this year it was, what, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago in early June, and we couldn't go because she wasn't going anywhere. But it's just a great organization, and she became connected to other women, not just locally through COCA, but I guess there's like an online community nationally. So when she was going through these clinical trials, she somehow connected with women in like California and Ohio, and I don't even know, all over, and could sort of compare notes. She went through so many different treatments herself and different clinical trials, and was so knowledgeable. She became a resource for other women with ovarian cancer. They would call her and email her and ask her for advice and, you know, what was her experience in this situation. And really, she spent a lot of time doing this. And times it bugged me. I was like, Jeanne, you need to rest. You need to take it easy. You're not the doctor. And no, she was trying to help these women, you know. She was, anyway. She was always looking to help somebody else. And a couple of people have already mentioned, you know, everybody always said, oh, she's so calm, she's so quiet. And that was generally true. It's a funny thing in our society. People tend to equate volume with strength. And Jeanne was proof that that's, you know, she blew that assumption out of the water. I just want to tell you one quick story to illustrate that. So I'm sorry. So about 20 years ago, I went to buy a car to a dealer, and it was the usual thing, haggling over price. Oh, let me talk to my manager. I'll see what we can do. And anyway, we finally agreed on a price. And then I sat down with their finance guy, and we agreed on the terms of a loan. And by then it was late, and they were closing for the night. And I said to the guy, look, we want both our names on the title, and we want both our names on the loan agreement. How about if we come back first thing in the morning and we finish this? He said, fine. So Jeanne and I go back first thing in the morning. We sit down with the finance guy. He gives us the papers. He changed it. It was a higher interest rate and a higher monthly payment. Jeanne lit into this guy. I mean, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. But it was like, you know, I don't know where you learned to conduct business like this. I don't know who you think you are. I need to talk to your supervisor. And but she went, I thought the guy was going to cry. I swear. His face turned red, and you know, and he backed off, and he said, I'm sorry. And he went back to the original terms that I had agreed on with him the night before. So anyway, that's just one example. I mean, I think Rachel can back me up when I say that, when she made her mind up and when she was determined, you couldn't move her. It's like, no. She had a strong will that, again, volume had nothing to do with it. Don't be confused by that. She knew how to be firm and determined. We saw it a lot. Anyway, she loved to travel. She loved to hear about other people's travels. She loved to listen to other people. She loved a lot of things. She loved life. She loved the family gatherings that Joel was mentioning. We were so happy that we got to go to a few of those in the last couple of years, even when traveling was not easy for her anymore. She mustered the energy to do that, because seeing her extended family, it's always been really important to her. Going to these simchas, that's all. I hope, in the future, we're going to have more of these simchas. So right now it's a little hard to think about them, but in the future we will. I just felt like she brought light into the world, that's what she did. She brought light into the world for pretty much everybody, I think. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Owen. Now we'll just have a moment to listen to a song, and if you know this one, you can join in as well.
Himnot yamein. Himnot yamein. Himnot yamein. Dukein hoda neva. Ofa. Himnot yamein. Dukein hoda benav neva. Just a treasure. Reach us the treasure each day. Just a treasure each day. That we may open our hearts. Your wisdom will teach us the treasure each day. Treasure each day. Just the treasure each day. Treasure stay. Teach us the treasure each day.
Now I'd like to call up Jean's cousin David Arfin to read an English translation of the 23rd Psalm.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Ach, tov v'chesed yardefuni, kol yemei chayai, v'shafti beveit Adonai la'orech yamim. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
And now we'll hear the words of that psalm in Hebrew. again. And this melody might be familiar to some of you. If it is, you're welcome to sing with me. And we'll do the Hebrew and then move into Nigun, a melody without words. And at that time, particularly, if you've caught the melody, you're welcome to sing along with me. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai rohi lo echsar, Binot asher yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yanaleni. Nafshi eshovel, nafshi eshovel, yancheni b'magle tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki ele begets amavet lo ira ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha shivtecha umishantecha hemayanachamuni. Tarok lefanai shulchan, Tarok lefanai shulchan, Tarok lefanai shulchan, neged zorai. Dishanta Vashem en Roshi, Dishanta Vashem en Roshi, Dishanta Vashem en Roshi, Kosi Revaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefunni kol yemei chayai Veshavti bevet Adonai, Veshavti bevet Adonai, leorech yamim. Yalalai, ay, 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 yalalai, ay, 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 yalalai, ay, 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 lai, 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 yalalai, ay, 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 yalalai, ay, 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 lai, lai, ay, ay. I'd like now to call forward Owen's sister, Sandra Eisenberg, to read a poem by Mary Oliver.
This is a poem that I think speaks to the legacy of Jeanne. It is from a book called devotions that I think, and I think being devoted to many things was a theme of Jean's life, and it was given to her by Owen. It is called Lingering in Happiness. After rain, after many days without rain, it stays cool, private. After rain, after many days without rain, it stays cool, private, and cleansed under the trees. And the dampness there, married now to gravity, falls branch to branch, leaf to leaf, down to the ground, where it will disappear, but not, of course, vanish except to our eyes. The roots of the oaks will have their share, and the white threads of the grasses, and the cushion of moss, a few drops, round as pearls, will enter the mole's tunnel. And soon, so many small stones, buried for 1,000 years, will feel themselves being touched. I see this poem kind of as a metaphor. I see the way that I see it as a metaphor is that Jeanne is now married to gravity, and the tears of our sadness are the rain. And after a long time of rain, and it may be a very long time, it will cleanse us, and the presence of Jeanne may have disappeared from physically from our eyes, but will be felt ongoing in many, many ways by many, many people. And Jeanne will continue to touch us. And if I know anything about Jeanne, it is that it would be her wish that we linger in happiness.
Thank you for that. So as I was singing just now, I was thinking about one of the many through lines that I've heard as we've been remembering Jeanne, and one of the through lines I witnessed as well was music from the concerts that she figured out with you, Robin, to the song in the Havara and the community, and to her very last days, having a visit from the Threshold Choir, and being able to leave this earth surrounded by angelic voices and music. So we have one more prayer to offer for her now that's sung. And for this, if you're able to, I would ask for you to stand. This is a prayer known as El Male Rachamim. El Male Rachamim Shochen Bameromim Amtei Menocha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina B'malot Kedoshim Uteorim Kezohar Harakia Mazirim Et Nishmat Yaakova Bat Moshe Shelcha Leolama Began Eden Tehei Menuchatai Ana Bal Harachamim Astireha Besetek Nafecha Leolamim Utzror Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmata Adonai hu nachlata v'tanuach v'shalom al mishkava v'nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Jeanne Pantone, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bonds of life. May she rest in peace. And we say, Amen. You may be seated. So, as is the tradition, we're going to wait to say the Kaddish prayer until the burial has been completed. And we will hold off on that for now, and do that at the graveside in a bit. For now, I'd like to call Joya forward to offer a few words of directions for what's next, and then we'll close with one more song. All right, thank you. Okay, so again, if you will be coming with us, the directions are out that way, and the family will have you go back to the room where we began and exit on the side. So I would ask that folks wait to offer your comfort to the family right at this moment so that we can all get to the cemetery in a timely way, and you'll have an opportunity to offer your condolences at the cemetery or at Shiva. And I'll just say a word about Shiva. So the family will be welcoming those who would like to visit and offer condolences tomorrow at 6 o'clock at the family home, followed by a 7 o'clock Shiva service where we will share memories and song together. So that'll be tomorrow, 6 o'clock together, 7 o'clock for a Shiva service. Yes. Oh. Yes, that is tomorrow. That is tomorrow. Sorry about that confusion. All right. So we'll conclude this part of our day with one more song.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings, learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for the smoke to rise. Blackbird, fly. Blackbird, fly into the light, dark black night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. I said all your life, you were only waiting for this moment to be free. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. You were only waiting for this moment to be free.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.